Ladies and gentlemen, my first guest tonight stars in Queer Eye and is now a New York Times best-selling author with his new memoir, Over the Top. Please welcome to The Late Show, Jonathan Van Ness. Nice to see you again.
You too.
I really love the outfit.
You
That's
do?
really nice. Yeah. I'm sorry we keep it so cold in here.
Oh, it's okay. You know, no worries.
Well, people know you from Queer Eye, a show that's really about other people's lives and improving somebody else's life. But now you have written a memoir of your own life, Over the Top. What's it like to tell your own story?
It was enthralling, yet sometimes very terrifying. It was like, I think it's definitely the hardest project I've ever done, the most I've ever worked on something.
Well, what's terrifying about it? Because certainly you don't seem like a shrinking violet. You're willing to share.
Me?
Yeah, you don't hide your light under a bushel, Jonathan Van Ness.
Well, you know, I think that, you know, because Queer Eye is not a show about, you know, the five of us, it's about the amazing people who we get to help. There is like not so much of an opportunity for me to tell like all of my backstory. And so this was really an opportunity for me to say, yes, I am this happy person who wants to like talk about our hair and where it should live and what colors we should think about and like where our eyebrows should do. And but I was like, there's more. And I think that, you know, for me specifically, you know, talking about like, you know, my HIV status or surviving sexual abuse or, you know, having disordered eating issues, I wanted to be able to talk about these things because I think that a lot of times people think that like if you have been through some hard times, like you can't be seen as positive or gregarious or happy anymore. And I just wanted to show that, honey, she's an onion with all sorts of layers.
I like that, honey, she's an onion. That's nice. So you are very frank about addiction, depression, sexual abuse, and you say that you want people to learn from the book that how to bloom where you're planted. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think, you know, my mom always said that to me. And it's basically like, it feels like the first cousin of like, no matter where you go, there you are. And it's like we are ourselves wherever we go. And I think I realized that growing up, which I talk so much about growing up in my hometown, there were really difficult aspects of it, but also—
Where was your hometown?
Quincy, Illinois. It's a gorgeous little place in Illinois. Yes, Illinois. The one for yes. I spent so much time growing up kind of being really very miserable, except unless I was playing in my imagination, like gorgeous Olympic Games or like eating powdered donuts or doing like—
actually eating powdered donuts or thinking about eating powdered donuts?
Eating powdered donuts while doing like carpet figure skating routines between commercials of like America's Next Top Model or like, you know, or Miss Universe, like, you know, whatever was on, whatever I could, you know, get the content that I needed as a child. It was few and far in between. So, but really it was about taking myself in, creating moments of joy, creating pockets of joy for me to be able to thrive and have fun in, and moments that really just weren't very fun.
You talk in here about, you reveal in the book your HIV status, HIV positive status. What have been the more meaningful responses to that revelation? Well,
there's been so much support, just in general, from so many people that you know, really made me feel very seen, and it's been, you know, I felt very embraced by a lot of the response that I got. I think also, though, the most meaningful thing that it's made me realize is the real lack of understanding that we still have around what it is to live with HIV now, and also the lack of a social safety net for HIV positive people. And when I had HIV initially, I was 25. I did not have a platform that I had now. There was like 4 different government programs that I had to like navigate by myself and, you know, figure out how to like— and I don't think I'm someone who doesn't take on information super well, and me doing it at 25, dealing with what I was dealing with at the time, it made it really difficult for me to find a doctor. It made it very difficult for me to access medicine. And it's just that when people would say like, you know, Queer Eye Star comes out with devastating HIV diagnosis, it really should have been like, Queer Eye Star comes out about the devastating ways that HIV positive people are still treated and stigmatized in this country, when There's no need. We know that with antiretroviral therapy, people that achieve and maintain an undetectable viral load effectively have no chance of transmitting the virus sexually. It's just something that I think people don't realize now. I think that a lot of people felt that HIV/AIDS was no longer a threat to them and just something that we don't think about, but actually there is a rising threat of HIV in America and across the world because of increased stigma and like lack of access to testing sites, like say at Planned Parenthood, when we're constantly defunding Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood last year gave over 740,000 HIV tests under the Title X program that the Trump and Pence administration just forced them out of. So I realized like just the huge lack of access that people have to information and the huge lack of support for people living with HIV in America. It is just so much harder than it needs to be.
You say you were 25 when you found out? You were 25 when you found out?
Yeah.
How did that change your life? Other than obviously having to find the proper treatment to care for your positive status, how did it change like the way you looked at life to be facing that at 25? What was going on? You said there was a lot going on in your life that was already difficult to deal with. What were those things?
So I talk about it in the book. You know, I was struggling with a drug addiction at the time, and you know, when you're trying to find your way out of substance abuse, and then you realize that you're HIV positive, you really have a choice there. It's like, am I gonna go? What am I gonna do? And so, you know, what was going on in my life at that time was, you know, I was born in 1987, right? So growing up in the late 80s, early 90s as a very, you know, clearly queer person from the time I was this big, you know, my family was very terrified of what HIV/AIDS would mean for my future. I learned very young to be terrified of HIV/AIDS, and I talk about that in the book. And, you know, when I was 25, the worst thing I ever thought could happen to me did. And what I realized is that like with access to medication and a doctor, which when I found my first doctor and went to her, I said, can I live to be 75? And she chuckled. This story's in the book and it's hilarious. She said, oh honey, she was like, I'll keep you alive long enough to die of a heart attack or cancer like everybody else. And then my mom like thudded off the chair behind me, like to the floor. Just, I mean, I was like, oh, and then I just heard this like thud. And my mom was like, it's like, Mom, you promised you wouldn't freak out. So again, that story's in the book. It's also super funny. So there's some sad stuff, but there's funny stuff.
Well, you have dealt with a lot in your life, but you're incredibly positive, incredibly upbeat. Is that in any way ever a burden that people always expect you to be chipper Jonathan Van Ness? Because you're a ray of sunshine. Do you ever not feel like it when people expect it from you?
Yeah, you're damn right I feel like that. You know, I'm just kidding. No, I do, but I think...
You still seem positive.
I do, I think, but you know, it's like, I'm not Einstein, I'm not like a scientist, but you know, it's like that equal and opposite thing. So as happy and as loving and as amazing as I can be, I have other times where I'm like equally as stressed, equally as irritated. And I'm totally dealing with like finding my balance there. I think I had this amazing therapist this one time that was like, you know what you're like? And I was like, what? And she was like, this is you. And I was like, okay. And she was like, you know what you need to do? And I was like, what? She's like, you gotta learn to find like this. And I was like, balance? And she was like, it's balance. And I was like, oh my God. So, yeah, so it's like, it's balance, you know? Yeah.
Well, you groom, but you also help people with self-care on Queer Eye.
I think they're one and the same.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think the way that we take care of our insides is like reflective of our outsides, I think. And also, Nancy Birtwistle, you know, according to Netflix season 1 winner of Great British Baking Challenge, yes, told me on DM, who I'm about to interview her when I go to London next week. I cannot wait. I've been waiting to meet her for so long. If you're not following her on Instagram, you really should be. It is so fierce. She's so cute. But anyway, she was like, you know, she was like, Jonathan, grooming means something different in England, and I was like, ew. And then also my
What
book,
does grooming mean in
it's
England?
It's like a grooming for hideous grooming. I don't even want to say it, but it's like grooming for abuse, honey. It's like, and she's like, I'm so glad that you don't call yourself a groomer anymore, honey. She's like, you're a stylist. It's like here, and I was like, oh, and also, sidebar, I don't even know if this will make it, but is this so true?
No idea.
True story. So when I first decided on the subtitle, I was like, my raw journey to self-love. I was like, that's perfect. It is, because it was like, it's kind of raw, it's pretty like, but it's also like, it's like self-love. It's like a, and then when I was talking to the British editors the first time, they were like, so about this subtitle? And I was like, what, it's great, right? And they were like, well, my raw journey to self-love, like self-love in the UK means like self-love. So my raw journey to like,
pleasuring yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so I was like,
well, it can
great.
turn into a raw journey if you take it too far.
Yeah. I didn't know about all these British,
You should have known that
different-
one.
I didn't know.
That doesn't need a translation, young
Really?
man. No, you keep your ear to the ground about politics. You care about politics.
I'm very tuned in.
And we have a clip here. You endorsed Elizabeth Warren, and she called you.
She did.
And both of you recorded this phone call, and I'd love to show the audience that if you don't mind. Jim?
It's Elizabeth Warren.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm having such a crazy day. Go save America. We gotta go, and also too, we also really gotta get that Mitch out of there because regardless of what, Mitch McConnell, he's the worst. So we gotta take the Senate. We're gonna take Congress back. Well, we already have Congress. We gotta take the
Let's
Senate
do it
back,
all.
and then we gotta get you in the White House. And we're just gonna sort everything out. So you go save America. I'm gonna go keep doing these interviews. I can't believe you took your time to talk to me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon. Be strong out there.
Thank you. I will. You too.
Bye-bye.
I feel the same way when I talk about sometimes. We got to go here in a minute, but I want to ask you about this. This is very important. Right now, the Supreme Court they just heard oral arguments for Title VII yesterday. It's a very important topic to you and to other Americans. What should we know about it?
Well, in 1964, we passed the Civil Rights Act, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act said that federally you can't discriminate on the basis of sex. And so the Obama administration had said that, and you can Google this, fact check it, like do your own research, but the Obama administration had been interpreting that, and I think up until that point through the Obama administration, that had been extended to people, to transgender folks and to gay and lesbian folks, bisexual, whatever, just, the whole crew, all of us. And basically, William Barr, the Attorney General, and then the Trump-Pence administration filed this brief and said, Congress at any time can rewrite any section of any law, of any statute to cover more people, to choose to include more people. And the crazy part about that is that the Equality Act, which the House passed a few months ago, actually addresses that, and it reopened the very act that Title VII is attached to, the Civil Rights Act. So the Civil Rights Act of 1964 has been open to add LGBTQ Americans into it, and that is the very thing that the Trump administration already said that they would not sign on to. Mitch McConnell won't bring it up to a vote. So the thing that's so troubling to me personally about this brief is that we have this power grab in Washington where we have a democratically elected body, the House of Representatives, that is doing their part to pass laws that they see fit, and Mitch McConnell won't even bring them up to a vote to be debated against or to be debated on. And so now, because we cannot pass the Equality Act with the present leadership that's in force now, they brought this up to the Supreme Court. And with Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, we can only know, what's going to happen. We don't expect a ruling until any time between January and June of 2020. So they're hearing oral arguments this week, but there's 3 cases. And yeah, there's a transgender case. There's 2 cases based off of sexual orientation, and it's just a huge issue for LGBTQ Americans.
Depending on how they rule, it could then be legal to fire anybody based on their sexual orientation.
Yes.
Or their sexual identity.
And the way I understand is they could, yeah, absolutely. But like, as President Obama said, like, don't boo, vote, I think next year it's so important that if you consider yourself an ally, I think it's really, we're past the time where you can say, I don't watch the news, it stresses me out. It's like, don't watch the news, then go on Twitter. Like, talk to somebody about it. Like, we have to keep our eyes and ears open because right now, we are detaining asylum-seeking families. We are separating families at the southern border based off of HIV status. We have 18 trans people so far that we know of that have been murdered this year. For 5 years straight, we have steadily increasing hate crimes. We are currently in so much animosity and toxicity in this country that people are being attacked every day. So we absolutely have to talk. We have to keep our eyes open. And I think it's kind of like that, metaphor in Dante's Peak. Remember with Pierce Brosnan? Remember?
I don't actually remember.
It's from Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak.
He says, honey, because when they want to evacuate that poor town by the volcano, honey, and no one will listen to the mayor, and then they bring in Pierce Brosnan, who I believe is the geologist.
Probably, yeah.
And so he's like, if you put a frog in the boiling water, which we should never do, But if you put a frog in boiling water, it will jump right out. But if you put a frog in the room temp water and boil it, honey, she'll stay there. And I fear that we are the frog in the room temperature water of America, and we're boiling.
Frog soup.
Frog
soup. Well, there's so much more to talk about. Please come again.
Please, have me anytime. It was such an honor.
Oh, it's lovely to see
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Good
so
to see you,
much.
Jonathan. Over the Top, the book, available now. Jonathan Van Ness, everybody. We'll be right back.